You know, I think that I should try giving these guys a handshake. That was a very poor handshake. I'm Regdrin, this is Jay, and it's
Hello.
Shadow Warrior.
Yes.
And this is one of those levels where it really makes a big difference to go in without gear, because there's a coolie right there, and you only have enough shuriken to deal with one of them. There's a whole bunch of coolies later on, too, so I gotta sort of be careful about where I go first. Of course, the riot gun is gonna help, but the starting 8 shells are not gonna get me too far.
Okay.
The good news is that there's some ammo not too far away.
Yeah.
You'll hear the
Lots
bad
of
news in a
shotguns.
sec. Those shotgun shells are in view of a shadow ninja, so I gotta pick him up pretty fast.
Good stuff.
Now,
Lots
I
of
got
machine gun ammo.
one Uzi, and you better get used to that, because you don't get the second one until much later.
Yeah.
There are a lot of little challenges like that in the second half of the game. This is the sort of thing that you wouldn't really find out going through the game normally, which is why I'm happy to show this sort of thing.
Right.
Another thing that changes is that secrets are a whole lot more important for planning your routes. Like, I'm clearing out this room because there's a secret in there that I'm pretty much gonna need to advance.
Right.
With the grenade launcher, I can clear out that little section where the Shadow Ninja was, and
Okay.
pick up the next weapon, which I'll need to move on. And I kind of like the way the secrets were designed so that you can get through the game pretty okay without knowing about them, unless you're going for a restart, in which case you pretty much can't get through without the secrets. Or
Right.
you can, but it'd be incredibly risky.
Huh. Was that the end of the level that you just saw a couple of...
Well,
Wow.
the secret level is that way, but there's sort of a cage thing in the way, and the switch
Right.
to open that isn't until much later.
Ah, okay.
So you have to go through most of the level anyway to get to the secret level.
Okay.
Unlike the next stage that has a secret level, in which case you can skip around 2/3 of the normal level if you want. And this is the way to dodge those side fireballs. You have to put cover between you and the incoming fireball. It's sort of a 90-degree cover sort of thing.
Right.
And now that I have the rocket launcher, I'm pretty much good to go. I'd like to talk a bit about the more recent Shadow Warrior game. I guess
Yeah, okay.
it's just called Shadow Warrior, but most people call it Shadow Warrior 2013 or something like
Yes.
that. And I got a different feel than from this game. Well, of course it's going to be kind of different. It was made
Right.
a whole bunch of years later.
Yeah.
But I guess I'd call it a spectacle shooter. It reminds me a lot of the gameplay of Bulletstorm.
Right.
The models, especially for damage, are pretty complex. Like, you can cut off individual limbs, and the game tallies points for you depending on the methods you use to kill things, so you get a bonus for using the environment and special skills. Now, you've watched enough of the game to know, in general, how I play.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could call me kind of a perfectionist. Like, it's tough to describe for a first-person shooter, but when a game has a point system, I try to reach the top of whatever rankings are provided. And whenever you fight a battle that's in any way significant in the first Shadow Warrior, it gives you a rating out of 5. And getting a good rating is pretty difficult. Most people ignore it, which is probably what I should do to get the most fun out of it, but
Right.
to get a really good score, you have to use the katana to kill enemies almost exclusively. Now, this might not seem like a bad thing at first glance, considering how much I use the katana in this game. But the way you have to fight is in a very particular way, or at least the highest scoring video that I saw, and this is nothing against the person who did. I give him points for being clever enough to figure out the optimal way of doing it, and I'm glad that I found his videos. But the way to get a whole bunch of points for killing an enemy is to knock him down with a sort of a chi wave skill, and then use the charged sword attack to behead him. And this works on pretty much any enemy that isn't huge. You go through most of, or almost all of the game killing enemies in that way. And because of the combination of modifiers that set of actions applies, you get a whole bunch of points each time you kill an enemy that way, and it's the way that you get a good rating for fights. The problem is, when you kill an enemy the same way each time, and there are a lot of fights, it gets really repetitive. If I tried recording it, I don't know how good I'd feel about it, because I don't think it's that interesting to watch. And that's not my main objection, though. The main thing is, it makes the guns pretty much not useful at all if you want a high score.
I did see that, yeah, okay.
And my one of my favorite things about this game in particular is that it gives you free reign to use all of the tools to get rid of enemies more or less however you think will deal with them without much risk to you.
Right.
And it rewards that kind of thinking because direct confrontations with the enemy, they're all extremely dangerous. I think I've demonstrated that a few times.
Yes.
And I don't really get that feeling of danger in the modern Shadow Warrior. I know there's difficulty levels and all, but most of the enemies are melee, and those that aren't fire projectiles that you can dodge reasonably enough.
Right.
There isn't that same sense of, if I stay in line of sight of these enemies too much, I'm gonna die. So, better get good with things like the grenade launcher and deal with enemies as quickly as you can. So it's not a bad game, especially if you're not as serious about a high score as I am, because the guns are fun to use. But for me personally, it's not my favorite thing. It doesn't feel like this Shadow Warrior game, certainly. But I think, as I said, that might be because I'm too much of a perfectionist and other people might enjoy it more. The jokes are not bad. It's definitely a lot less racist than this game, and I appreciate that. But the combat just doesn't feel as fast-paced and doesn't really get me going the way it does in this game. So that's generally how I feel about it.
Okay. What? So did you? Okay. So looking at this, looking at the new Shadow Warrior 2013, and looking at Bulletstorm, which as far as the humor, what are your thoughts on that? I
think the humor is a lot smarter in Shadow Warrior than it is in Bulletstorm. Although Bulletstorm does have its moments, certainly. And despite the fact that you have to use points to buy ammo in Bulletstorm, so there's this constant emphasis, I never feel as obligated to get maximum points on everything.
Right.
Probably because there isn't that official rating at the end of the level.
Right.
I feel like I'm, I guess, being judged less.
Okay.
Have you ever played Bulletstorm?
Yes, played it on the Xbox 360.
Oh, nice.
Actually, and finished it through, and I was trying to rebuy it on the PC until I think they got rid of it. But yeah, a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun with the Bulletstorm. So, Wait, which version of Lo Wang do you like better? Do you like the 2013 or do you just like the old school Lo Wang?
As far as his personality goes, I think I prefer the new Lo Wang. Because he's still really arrogant, but, as I said, a lot less racist, and the jokes are less based on broken English and things like that.
Yeah.
As far as the weapons go, there are a couple of neat weapons in the Shadow Warrior Modern. I especially like the crossbow when you get the upgrade that lets you sort of charge it up, because it changes your gameplay quite a bit. But in Modern Shadow Warrior, you don't get all these great tools right at the start, and in the Shadow Warrior that I'm playing, the point is to learn how to use things like the grenade launcher well, and to that end, you're given that stuff right at the start, so you can start learning right away. In Shadow Warrior Modern, the emphasis is, as I said, a lot more on the use of the katana, and guns play more of a secondary role. And you mentioned that you like using the katana. That sort of thing might appeal to you, because there's a lot more things you can do with it in Modern Shadow Warrior.
That's good, yeah.
If gunplay is more your thing, though, I'd look somewhere else.
Okay.
Any more questions?
No. I'm glad you dug the new Shadow Warrior. I've been trying to pick it up as of recent. I own it, but I have to.
By the way, check the secret here. It looks like it's not that useful because it teleports you right in the face of all these enemies.
Right.
And I already have all the gear. I already have a grenade launcher and stuff. Though the portable medkit is nice. The main thing is, this is the room with those mini serpent gods.
Yes.
And if you walk into the room before finding that secret, you'll be shot at from above all the time you're fighting the serpents. So the secret is great for getting rid of those snipers, so that you don't take constant damage while you're fighting these things.
Not bad.
And these guys take a ton of damage. I don't know if...
Yes.
I know boss damage is adjusted depending on difficulty. Not sure about normal enemies, though.
Right.
They take... I don't know how many rockets exactly. I think 5 or 6. So... The good news is that they don't have any attack other than those green projectile things. So, for example, the full boss type will summon that circle of grenade heads that it'll throw at you. The mini ones don't do that.
Okay.
So now that I've gotten the key, it's time to take a look at a pretty difficult room. The good thing is it's all wide open, which is bad if you're fighting there yourself, but great if you want to summon a clone with the Ripper Heart.
Nice.
I always thought it was pretty funny to just summon the clone, close the door, and hear everything get splattered by the railgun.
Yeah.
Good job, other me. And this is, I think, your favorite part of the level here?
Yes, this is has to be my absolute favorite, with this almost near secret of a key.
Yeah, if you just dive into the pool in the center part, you don't get access to the sort of passage that the fountains lead to.
Right.
So that's another place that you can get stuck on. It seems like every level has one of those. Personally, it took me a little time to find the switch behind the spinning blades.
Huh. Yeah.
And whenever I find a Guardian Head, I try to find a place to use it just because I think it's really fun.
How is it in the new Shadow Warrior, like, at all? Do you like it more in this one, or do you like it more in the new
It may be
2013?
my nostalgia talking, but I prefer the old Shadow Warrior just because it provides a lot more freedom with the way you can fight and the routes you can take in the levels. This isn't to say that the new Shadow Warrior is a bad game. It's just not a whole lot like the old Shadow Warrior.
Right.
Now, you saw me climb those vines, right?
I did for that secret, yeah.
Those are... I thought that was particularly clever because it leads to a switch that opens up the secret level, and you could climb vines in the previous level, but it wasn't required. So you wouldn't necessarily look at the vines and see that you could get up there. And that's it for this level. We'll see you next time.
Later, guys.
Oh, before that... there's a coolie. Hooray! Hooray! Later.